Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining us again here today on Hessens County for another TTRPG talk. This video series takes a look at tabletop role-playing games and related materials, makes suggestions for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today on the channel, we're going to be doing something a little bit different because we are going to be doing an unboxing. I should have checked to see if my address was on that label. It's a good thing that it's not. Anyway, the game we're going to be featuring today is Knight, that was created by Mark of Armoured Gaming. This game was originally put up on Kickstarter. That's how I got my copy. But it is currently available, should you wish it, on DriveThruRPG. The page to this will be linked below. I highly recommend that you actually take a look and read through the DriveThruRPG page because Mark was actually very thorough when creating this page. There are lots of descriptions and links and all kinds of stuff in here. But just to give you all a quick preface of the basics of the game. Knight is again, it's a TTRPG that is it's generally rules light. It's highly inspired by things like Into the Odd and stuff like that, where you are playing a knight who is what kind of knight you are. They specifically state is kind of up to you. Because, of course, there are lots of different knights if you take a look at the myths and legends of things like King Arthur, which this is heavily inspired by a lot of the sort of more earlier Welsh myths around figures like Arthur and some of the earlier kings, both historical and mythical. Anyway, as I mentioned, you are playing a knight that in traditional storybook fashion is facing a lot of the same problems. You're going on quests, you're fighting against hordes of foes, you're potentially even having to slay a dragon or two. There are, however, several elements that I feel kind of make Knight a bit different from your traditional TTRPG. The first of that is that basically your character is typically always successful. Again, if we take a look at a lot of the myths and legends, very rarely do the knights actually face failure, per se. Instead, they sometimes face consequences, and sometimes those consequences are so bad that you kind of wish that you didn't succeed in the first place. So essentially, this game utilizes a D20 roll under system where you are, instead of rolling to check on that success, you're rolling to see what the consequences of your character's actions are. Another thing that makes this a bit different from some other TTRPGs is that you are not playing only a single character. Instead, you are playing a sequence of characters. You're actually intended to play basically a succession, a lineage of knights. And essentially passing on your title or rank or whatever that is, either to some heir, whether that's an adopted heir or you're passing on your lineage you're passing on directly to like a blood lineage or some other involvement there. Essentially you're passing on, and you're supposed to kind of play through 3 different generations of your knight before you complete the game. So that's another thing that I find quite interesting. In many ways, this is kind of like a marriage between To Swear on Your Honor, which of course we've featured on this channel and are currently in the middle of an actual play for, and Lineage, which of course we've also done actual plays for on this channel. So you have like sort of genealogy from and sort of house building and maintaining and stuff like that from Lineage combined together with the sort of creation of a legend and following through the entirety of a career from To Swear on Your Honor combined together, which I think is really ideal, especially if you prefer world building or you really like creating lots of different characters. This might be a good thing for you because then you have an excuse to actually play them all. So we'll go ahead and stop rambling there, and we will go ahead and set up to start opening this box. So let's go ahead and get started. You will notice, of course, that I have already opened this. I had to remove my address so that I don't dox myself on the internet. I love y'all very much, but not that much. Anyway, so here we go. So this is the hardback print on demand that you can get from TTRPG. So again, here we go. We have Knight, a storytelling game of legacy, chivalry, and myth from Mike Barron. Actually, I guess I'll go ahead and read this. A knight is sworn to valor. Their shield defends the weak. Their word speaks only truth. Their blade lays low the wicked, and they fear no evil but disgrace. The Avalonian Code of Knighthood. Interesting. All right. And of course, we see the use of a lot of classical art in here. So we have, what is this game? Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's simple. It's 10 steps. Yeah. But here we have our knight creation. So we can either choose to create or roll. We have names. So we have 2 lists of names. Create rules to create a coat of arms. So we have backgrounds and charges. Age. Roll a faith or a patron spirit. So here we have a list of saints that you could follow, like Saint Acacius the Defender, Saint Hildegard the philosopher, Saint Brigid. Or also here is a collection of pagan deities that you could potentially follow. So we have, like, for example, Moth, Morgaine, Lug, Gofanan. Physical descriptions, place and then we have the 3 attributes, vigor, prowess, and wit. You can place a 12, a 10, or an 8 in any of these. Specific sort of trait describing an area of personal skill. So we could have, like, martial, spy, hunter, passion, and then you pick something that's very specifically important to you. 2 family members who are your dependents. Both of them are younger than you, but within a year or 2. Name one of them to be your heir. The other one is the spare. You have your endurance, which I'm assuming is basically like hit points. Choose, create, or roll the name of your fief and a point of interest about it. Interesting. Also, this is the name for your family lineage or your house. Okay. So again, here we have Lyonese, Ingavel, Rhaenyd, Aiden, Astolat. There's a bunch of pretty common names. We have our starting creation, and then here we run through a character creation. Oh, and then we actually create our own Avalon. So you and the rest of the group who you're playing with actually create. Basically, you start kind of drawing it out. It says here, draw 3 major rivers. These are the Avon, the Rin, and the Camellen. Then everybody adds a geographic boundary. So we have, like, hills, major forests, so on and so forth. Then we draw outlines of the 3 kingdoms of Avalon. So Avalon is the land, and then in it we have kingdoms. So we have Camlin, Aliru, and Strathclyde. These are Brythonic kingdoms from northern England, or like the lowlands of Scotland. So yeah, but from there we just kind of dive into kind of describing the rules of the game, phases, scenes, how to do checks, if you have a situation where you have players versus players, simultaneous resolution. Ooh, defeat. Yes, that's important. Ooh, good. Yes, definitely. Rules for baggage animals and squires. Most definitely. Okay. Yes, we need that. And of course we have magic. Knights deal in glory. Anytime you need to represent the use of power, wealth, or influence, you spend glory. That's good. Okay, so glory is essentially like our currency in the game. If a knight ever has less than 1 total glory, then they gain the trait Dishonored and are outcast from society. Ooh, that's not so good. As a rule of thumb, 1 glory will pay for a small farm or the use of a highly trained specialist for a single event or a situation. 5 glory pays for the outfitting of a knight, a wooden tower, renting a ship, or a small mercenary unit for a campaign. 10 glory pays for a village wall or a stone tower, 30 for a wooden motte and bailey, and 50 glory may pay for a stone keep. So in other words, if you get lots of glory, you can build your own castle. Okay. Oh, yes. And I forgot to mention earlier. So you have basically 2 different essentially rounds in this phases in this game. You have a phase where you're actually kind of like running out and going on adventures. This is the quest phase. And then that is followed by the fief phase, which basically you return to your lands and normal life and kind of just do your usual things. So basically you can take care of family affairs, personal affairs, take care of different turns, improve your fief, stuff like that. Special events can potentially happen on your fief, like maybe you figure out a problem you need to solve in your manor. And then free play is kind of stuff that can kind of happen in around everything, whether it's before or after. After your night retirement. After 10 phases, you must retire from adventuring. In their place, another knight is created, the heir. The time in the game passes until all heirs are old enough to play. After your knight retires or dies, if they have more than 0 glory, each player should, between the sessions, write the tale of their knight as if told by a minstrel at the court of a powerful medieval monarch centuries later. For every 10 points of glory, mention a tale or a story that they had been involved in, and tell this tale at the table. Everything else is unfortunately forgotten. So that's also a good thing to kind of pull into this. Basically, for those of you who don't know what a chanson is essentially like, if you've ever heard of like the Song of Roland or something like that, it's essentially an ancient epic, a medieval epic poem that is usually sung or rhapsodized. That basically tells about the life of a person. So, like, Beowulf is another. Beowulf is not technically a chanson because obviously Beowulf was actually created before chansons even really existed. Chansons were a thing, but it's the same basic concept. Where you're telling an epic story and all of the things that potentially happened to this individual. Oh, and glory can also apparently pass on from one character to the next. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it says here the heir receives all of the glory of their forebear, instead of starting at 5. So your normal knight will, when you create them, will start with 5 glory, and then each heir will apparently start after that with more. We have examples of play. Good, always a good thing to see. I am kind of liking the fact that the text is a bit offset, especially since it allows for sidebars. One thing I'm not necessarily super happy about is how deep into the gutter the text is kind of going, but unfortunately that's probably not really that was probably not necessarily in the original draft, and something that unfortunately just happened because of the method of case binding, that the perfect case binding that the printers use. Okay. Here we go. Oh, yes, good. We have a history section. So we have a brief description of exactly what Avalon is. 3 kingdoms rich with ancient strife. Camlin under the disputed kingship of Bycourt. Strathclyde under the Centurion Queen Treste. And Liru under the invading King Cadbrac of Darida. So basically here we have an outline of the history. The land started off being ruled by giants. Invaders came bringing magic. different invaders got defeated, and the Avalonians started fighting amongst each other. We have Saint Gale, holy companion and lover of the Grail Knight, coming in and bringing the peace, bringing the faith of the faithful. Basically, this game's version of Christianity. Avalon gets conquered by an empire. Faith was made illegal. And forced worship of pagan gods. The three kingdoms are created by the empire. The empire then leaves. Empire Avalon, yeah. Three kingdoms fight amongst each other. Then they're united. High Queen Rhiannon Pellew is killed by the treachery of Sir Bycourt. Sir Bycourt apparently becomes king. Okay, interesting. Ooh, here we go. Here's some controversy. Bycourt, the king, employs Great Lord Aela Wolflord to drive back the Centurion Queen. So apparently this is tying in heavily to like the Arthurian legends about why the Saxons came. And that the Saxons came basically as mercenaries to help kings fight against each other. So that's what we have here. This lord, the Great Lord Aela Wolflord, essentially is the leader of the Geats, who are essentially Norse, but they're kind of standing in for the Saxons, the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes, and so they get brought in, and then they end up kind of taking over to a certain extent, it seems. And of course we have our political structure, which this is basically modified, a kind of modified manorial system. Aha! Yay! Okay. So unfortunately, we still have commoners bound to the land, so they're serfs, unfortunately. However, we do have a toleration of sexual diversity. Before marriage, sex is relatively uninhibited. Polygamous and homosexual marriages are permitted. Avalonians of any gender can attempt any career or profession. We have law. More talking about knights. We have discussions of the Geats, who, again, as I mentioned, are basically Saxons. We have their tactics, their religions. Yeah, we have Woden, Tyr, Friggi, Thor. Yes, they're very Anglo-Saxon. We have the Riadan, who I'm guessing are supposed to be like the Picts, because this would have been before Scots. The Chavalona sound like essentially the French. Yeah, they're definitely French, or at least early medieval French. Empire Avaloni. Again, these are basically your Romans. Okay, so basically this is like a pre-made sort of adventure campaign, where the three knights are essentially working for Queen Caelia, who is the sole survivor of the family of Pellew. Yeah, so basically this goes through the series, basically the the various elements of King Arthur's myth, but instead of having a King Arthur, we have a Queen Caelia. So essentially this is a pre-wrote campaign that kind of runs you through the basic arc that you would expect a campaign for this to go. Here are some recommendations. The Mists of Avalon is a good one to pick for this. The Green Knight is also a good one to pull for this. Yes, the old original animated Sword in the Stone, Excalibur, the 2004 King Arthur movie, The First Knight. Yeah, a lot of these are pretty good choices when it comes, I think, to books and movies. There's a couple more I might add, but that's my personal opinion. So again, and then here in the back we have sort of a copy of the rolling table for events during the fief phase. descriptions on how these different elements work, and then that's it. So I just wanted to point out that there are a number of resources that are actually here on the website that are not that do not appear in the book itself. So, for example, we have the character sheet. These are all things that you can also. These are available on the Armoured Gaming website for Night. Which I will also put a link to this in the description down below. But in any case, we have the character sheet. So here you would, of course, be describing your knight, their title, the player, your name, your player's name, the character's name, age, patron spirit, description, portrait, the various traits, equipment descriptions, their stats, the name of their heir. History would go here along with some notes. We have the house and family tree. So here is an area where you can kind of draw out the map and write down the name for your character's fief. I'm assuming here you would be able to write out a motto and then draw the coat of arms. On the second page of it, then this would be the back. You could here you have our family tree. So we have our first knight here, presumably going down from there. You have your second knight, your third knight, and then all the other dependents that were mentioned. Like you start off with 2 dependents at the beginning of the game to kind of build out your house. We do have here an alternative event table to the one that we had in the text. So the one that is in the book is a D20 table. So you will notice that here there are obviously a number more. This is a D66 table, or as I prefer calling it, a 36 table, because that's how many options you get. You get 36. So this is definitely, there's more, and it's a bit easier to kind of to read and kind of go in and stuff like that. And then, of course, we have this very useful tool. This is definitely something I think that probably should have been in the book if it was designed to be bigger. If this was a standard letter size or A4 size book, I would definitely have put this sort of flow chart and stuff in the book. But I kind of understand why they didn't, just because of space constraints. So yeah, we have, again, the sort of, this is the section discussing our quest phase. So we kind of go through our quest. We decide how much glory we get. We hop back up over here to the fief phase and kind of run through the different events that happened here. And then, of course, we have various other elements reminding you of certain elements of the rules, like endurance and facing defeat, traits that you character might have, the descriptions of the 3 different attributes and how to assign them. And then over here we have our luck dice, basic rules about the glory. So yeah, basically we have our various different actions and things that occur during the two different major phases of the game. So this is definitely something that would be incredibly useful. I definitely recommend that you print this out and keep it next to you the entire time you're playing this game. So anyway, that was Night by Mark of Armoured Gaming. Thank you all for joining us again here today. Go out there and slay some dragons, get noble, and don't forget to rate your itch purchases.
If you would like to show your support for this channel or for the Hessens County blog, in the description down below you will find links to the channel coffee and also the itch store. Please feel free to take a look, and thank you for your support.